My name is Cynthia Dickerson, and I created this Cuddle bow quilt. Shannon Fabric and I got together, and they sent me some fabric from their Cuddle line, which I made this with. Let me tell you, this fabric is so soft and snuggly. It's very thick and plush. It was easy to sew with, and I just love it. Now, if you'll go ahead and continue with me, I'll give you the steps on making this quilt. And thank you so much for watching. Let's go ahead and get started. I chose the pastel Cuddle fabric for my project, and I have my pattern pieces cut out, and each color will be cut out exactly the same. There will be a 12 by 12 square of each color. There'll be one of those. There will be two 6 by 12 rectangles of each color, and there will be 4 of each color in the little 6 by 6 inch squares. Now you can go ahead and use my placement guide, which I have included, or you can lay this out any way that is pleasing to you. The very next thing that I did was I took my fabric pieces outside and I gave them a really good shake and get rid of all those fuzzies. And that really helps. Now I do have 3 rows finished. I started with the center, the 4 center rows. I have 3 of them done, and I'm going to show you a few things here on my last row. Now this fabric does have a grain to it. Maybe that's not important to you, but I like it all to run in the same direction. You can feel it, how smooth it is on some pieces. And then like this piece here, as you can see, it shows, you can see how that shows when I'm running my finger down there. And if you just turn that around till you find how it runs smooth, then that would be the way you would want to sew that. So when you attach that, like I'll attach the blue, and then when I attach that green, I want that to be running down like that. Okay, now when you sew this, I did use my walking foot and a jersey ballpoint needle. I used a larger stitch length. I used 3.2 because this is a little thick, the fabric, and so you do want a little longer stitch length. And also, when I pinned these pieces together, I pinned them with 5 pins for each one of these little sections. I know you're probably thinking, what? But that really helps a lot. And this Minky is very thick, so you do not want to skip this step. I start at the ends, I put a pin in the end, then I put a pin in the other end, lining everything up. And then I go to the middle, I put one in the middle, and then one in between each of those sections. And this will save you a lot of headaches if you don't skip this step. Just go ahead and pin it before you sew, and it'll just sew real nice for you then. I am sewing at 1/4 inch from the edge with the walking foot, and I'm going to go ahead and finish these sections, and then we'll move on. Now for the top 2 rows and the bottom 2 rows, you want to go ahead and sew the 4 squares together that go in the center, and then this is where your 12-inch square comes in. You'll want to go ahead then and just sew that to the edges there. And it's going to be a hair larger because you did sew in 1/4 inch on these squares. But it gives you a little playroom in case you're stretched out a little bit. And all you have to do is just trim that when you're done. I can show you here on a finished one. I have this one finished. And you can see I sewed my 4 squares. And I added my square at the end, and then I just trimmed it to the right side. Okay, and once we finish that, then we'll be able to just sew every one of the rows together of the blanket, and that'll be finished. I have my quilt top all sewed together now. The next step that I did was I measured around my quilt, the perimeter of my quilt, and mine came out to 44 inches by 35 inches. I went ahead and cut a solid piece of Cuddle, which I am using as the bottom of my quilt. I have the two wrong sides facing in, and next I pinned around the quilt, oh, I'd say up about 8 inches all the way around. Your next step would be to cut a 6-inch square out of all 4 corners. I've used my 6-inch square ruler, just laid it on the corner, used my rotary cutter, and just ran that down and cut that section out. You won't need that. The next step is to mark all the way down the quilt then, and you'll be doing this on all 4 sides. I marked every 1 inch. Now, if you're good, you can kind of eyeball this, or you can use the ruler and mark it if you want to be real accurate. And then what you want to do, I put masking tape on. I ran it all the way down the side of the quilt, as you can see, to hold that in place. Also, what that's going to do is it's going to give me an exact line where I know to stop cutting. That way, everything will be nice and even. So next, you'll just want to cut these strips out. I've done a couple here, and I'll show you how to tie one, or how I tie it. You can tie it any way you'd like, but I just take the strip, I wrap it around my 2 fingers like this, get clear up at the end, and then I just tuck it inside and pull this and just slide your knot up. I'll do it one more time. Wrap it around your 2 fingers, tuck it in. This goes real fast, and pull it. Aren't they cute? Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and finish this around the whole quilt. Now here's the blanket. I have it all tied and we're ready to make the bows. Now you'll want to take your fabric strip that we're using for the bows, and you'll want to fold the good cuddle side to the inside, and we're going to sew this all the way down with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And you'll want to do this to each of your strips. Now you'll want to turn your fabric strips right side out. You can use whatever you like to turn this. I'm using a tube turner to get mine right side out. Now I fold this on the seam, and I'm just going to tie a small knot here at the end. Just try to get it as close to the end as you can. Okay. And now we're ready to attach these to the quilt. Now I'm sewing on my bows. The first thing I did is I crisscrossed the bow, and I'm just sliding it right under the presser foot where the 4 corners of the little 6-inch squares meet. And I'm using my buttonhole stitch, which just kind of tacks it on there real nice. If you don't have this stitch, you could probably use a zigzag stitch. Just let it zigzag back and forth. I'll go ahead and do the first sewing here. Clip my threads. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I have this big loop. And I'm going to take this, and I'm just going to fold that little loop right in half in the center there. You see, I just kind of squeeze that right in the center. And I'm going to put that right on top there and just tack that one more time. And that just forms the cutest little bow, and we're all finished.